Welcome, everybody, to TRB Live. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. That's James. Lacey here to talk to you about the latest Star Wars news and also answer some of your questions that you're going to submit via hashtag AskTheResistance. But whether you're watching live or you're listening on your favorite podcast app, thank you for hopping into the Resistance base, being a part of what we got going on here at TRB. It means a lot, and it's good to see all of you and to hear from all of you and all of that. Make sure you do share this with your fellow friends who like Star Wars. If you're on social media, give it a repost, wherever that may be, and like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. But most importantly, have a good time, because that's what it's all about. James, Lacey, how are we doing? We doing all right? Do you guys see? I haven't watched any of the episodes yet, but Young Jedi Adventures is back with another set of episodes. Have you had a chance to check it out yet? The kids check it out? I remember, Lacey, you saying your daughter liked Nubs.
She thought Nubs was cute, and she thought Yoda was Grogu.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. However, I did see a clip today where they go to Starlight Beacon from the High Republic. So that is quite the tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hopefully they get off Starlight.
I know. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, sorry.
Right. Yeah. We don't need any more bad things happening to younglings.
Yeah, it's like a terrible thing that happens, and like, but it's like a kid show. It's like Blue's Clues, like we're all going to the trade towers or something. It's like, oh my god, like that's awful.
The trade towers.
Yeah,
they did that on Blue's Clues.
That's what I'm saying.
No, but he's saying it's like that.
Oh,
it's like that. It's like you're watching a kid show, and like they're like, oh well, at this time,
let's go get on the Titanic.
Takes you're like, place in 1999, so
don't get
it's
into
okay.
this.
Oh, remember I was
like,
telling you guys
what happens is awful.
I wanted to do the Oculus Titanic experience. Remember that?
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
They don't have it. It's not on Oculus, so I couldn't do it. I couldn't die in the Titanic. Sadly, my dream was shattered. But
what's dreams sunk?
Yeah. All right. So before we get into anything, just so everyone knows, at the end of the show, our final segment is going to be Ask the Resistance. So if you're in the live chat, doesn't have to be super chats. Just use hashtag Ask the Resistance if you have a Star Wars question you think would be cool for us to discuss and talk about right here on the show. You can drop it at any point during the show, and we'll get to as many as we can in our final segment of the show. And before anything else, Lacey, your final show today is your final show.
The final countdown.
Now I'm waiting for the comments to populate with ever, like ever.
Yeah.
No, not ever. Just for a little bit. You girls ready to be done?
You're having another child.
I am. I'm bringing another human into the world next week.
Isosceles Shay is arriving.
Oh my god!
People
don't understand that you throw like 17 names at me daily, and
so yeah, today was Emilio, Elvis, and Isosceles. Seinfeld fans will know what I'm talking about. It's a deep cut.
But no, it's very exciting. You know, we're having a boy. We had a girl, a Daisy, a couple years ago, and now we're having a boy. So it's going to be a whole new experience for me. The girl, you feel like you're a little you're a little bit of an expert. You're like, oh, I got this. The boy, I'm like, what am I doing? So we'll see how this goes.
That's going to escalate quickly.
Also, people are talking about it in the chat, and I totally am hyped about this. The strike is over, guys. We made it. We did it. Yeah. We're so happy that the Actors Guild SAG-AFTRA got what they wanted. They got a deal worth $1 billion. They protected themselves from AI. They were like trying to use their likeness after death, like crazy stuff. But it just proves that when you stick together and you work as a team, you can get what you get where you deserve. And I'm so happy for everybody. And I can't wait to see what announcements we're going to get in the next 3 months, 4 months, because they're going to give us a lot of stuff to get going. But yeah, I'm really pumped. I'm really happy.
And those are the only two, right? So this essentially means for Hollywood that productions are going to start back up.
They start immediately next week. I know that visual effects people. You do.
No, I know, but it's a funny phrase, like immediately next year. Like
No, next week. But yeah, no, there's talks obviously of I think animators and visual effects people going on strike, but they don't have a union yet, so they need to unionize,
right.
I believe.
Yeah.
Which they totally should.
Yeah. Fran Drescher is a national treasure and the queen of my life. So good job, Franny, taking care of business.
She always looks good. There was a really good TikTok of like her coming down the stairs in the nanny and all her different little outfits. Looks good.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think the reruns ratings are so high for that show?
Although her voice, come on, her voice is a little crazy.
I don't care.
Only because it reminds
her
me of my mother-in-law, like a very harsh, like Queens, New Jersey accent. Like Linda Belcher from Bob's Burgers. It's like
I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but the girl from Friends, I always got them mixed up. The oh my god girl.
Janice.
That's
Janice.
It. I for a long time I thought Fran Drescher played Janice, but it's not.
Oh
but...
no. Well, speaking of Seinfeld, Janice played a love interest of George on Seinfeld.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I know.
By the way, nothing to do with Star Wars. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. That really bummed me out.
Yeah, I was thinking about it when I was
really
like, terrible. I was trying to rephrase it, like the love interest of Chandler.
Yeah, that was such a bummer to hear about that. But he will live on forever for sure. No doubt about that. All right, so Lacey, we obviously have to get James going here with the Resistance Report, but I have this weird cosmic feeling that there might be a super chat in the living force.
There's two, so you were halfway there. Starting with Darth Snips. Whoa. What up, girl? How's it going? She said, haven't been able to make it to a live show in a few weeks, and I missed you guys. We missed you too. So happy the strike is over, so now actors can finally get in on the fun. Yay! I agree. Today we got so many behind-the-scenes photos that was so awesome from Ahsoka, from Natalie, and from a bunch of other people. So there's nothing worse than, like, I'm sure being part of something that you put so much heart and soul into and you just can't talk about it. So very happy for them. What do you guys think?
Well, we missed you too, Snips. So welcome back to the base on the live edition. But yeah, it's definitely good because there was always this wondering, especially just from the Star Wars bubble of, you know, the nervousness of, well, they were already having some troubles getting things off the ground. Now we have the strikes. Like, what does this do for this movie or this show and stuff? So knowing that variable is now out of the way, we can get back to seeing where things are, when things are coming out. I look forward to hearing about when Skeleton Crew's coming out, because that got pushed, and Acolyte and all that stuff, and Andor. So I think we are about to get pummeled with some updates over the next month or so.
In the best way.
Yeah, our news shows are probably going to be pretty packed. But I'm excited. I'm happy about the AI stuff, especially because that stuff has always like ever since I watched Terminator 2, like that stuff just
no me gusta.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you very much, Darth Snips.
James?
Yeah, it's one of those things where not like I forgot about it, but like when it was done, I was like, oh, and then like what does that mean? And you start adding it up. Like it's one of those things, like things are going to start going back into production. But Lacey's right. It's another thing that I sort of forgot is that we're going to start seeing things that should have happened now happen, like behind the scenes, or they're going to release this other thing that they were going to release at the time, but they couldn't, so it's kind of one of those things where now the floodgates are back open and things can stop getting canceled unfairly. If things still get canceled because now the actors want so-and-so and we can't provide that, then that's fair. You need to pay them for what it was. But it was just so unfortunate when shows that were good were getting canceled because they had to do this, and then they're like, well, then we're not going to make that show. And that show ended. And certain things ended forever. It will be like the show never got a true ending, because it ended its season 2 on a cliffhanger and it's like, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that Stranger Things started with Millie Bobby Brown being so young, and now the last season's about to start up in a couple weeks, I think, for filming, and she's like getting married.
She's like 37. It's crazy.
They talked about it. They're like, we're gonna do our best with hair and makeup. Like, oh my gosh, man, you guys are really trying to hide it.
I felt for her
Just
though.
jump ahead, right? The last season, so it jumps ahead or something.
Yeah, she did give a good interview recently where she's like, "Look, I appreciate everything that's done for my career, but like, I'm ready to say goodbye and move on and do other things." I was like, I get it.
Well, she's doing Enola Holmes 3 now. It's like not like she doesn't have other things.
Then in 5 years, it'll be the return of 11 when her movies don't do so well.
Well, yeah, that's fair. Hi, Daisy.
I hope not. I hope that
Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
Okay, she has an indie movie that's coming. That's Marcia's Daughter, I think it's called.
She's had a lot of indie movies come out.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be amazing
and not indie movies.
I love
she
Daisy
produced
Ridley.
it.
Yeah, I'm just saying the movies she's come out with haven't made a lot of money. That's all. I'm not. I'm rooting for her. I want everything she does to be great. I love Daisy Ridley. And she's probably never the problem. So
next super chat, Kyle Beckworth. What up? Thank you so much for the super chat. He said the strike is finally over. Yes, it is. I'm sure we'll get an avalanche of news and casting soon. All the best to you, Lacey, and the little one. Thanks, TRB. Thank you so much, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.
It should be good. It's good. It's great. It's wonderful. I'm not nervous at all. No, I am. It's all good. It's gonna be great. It's all good.
All right.
But I am excited for news because I feel like for the past few months, like rightfully so, it's been very quiet, as it should be. But I'm happy that we're finally going to get stuff from these people.
Yeah. And
we did get a super. Oh, I was going to say, we also got a super chat from Michelle, but you didn't put what you said. So Michelle, please just put your comment and I'll.
Thanks, Michelle.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Speaking of news, James, let's fire it up. It is the Resistance Report.
All right.
It's the Resistance.
Do you guys think you'll go see the Marvels?
Nah.
I didn't like Captain Marvel. I'm gonna be honest. I did not like that movie.
I didn't love Captain Marvel, but I watched the trailers for the Marvels and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that looks awesome.
It does look good.
Seeing that, yeah. Well, it did its world premiere, and Kevin Feige, of course, was doing interviews. One in particular stuck out to Star Wars fans because Ash Crossan couldn't get that out. Who we know loves Star Wars and understands the fan base. She had good Marvel questions too, but she had to throw in, hey, what's going on with that Star Wars movie, you're producing? And he kind of moved around the question, but he answers it very interestingly. And John actually had me pull the clips. So we got some clips in this episode. You guys want to see it?
Well, let's listen to Kevin Feige.
Here we go.
Question for you.
Oh.
What's up with the Star Wars movie? Is it happening? I know that's like, is it happening?
Any Star Wars movie?
Yours.
No.
Okay. Okay.
That awkward smile, though.
Yeah.
No.
Meanwhile, there's some woman in the back going, "Don't block the logo. Don't block the logo. You're blocking it." Can we play that one more time just to listen to that lady?
Yeah. Here we go.
Listen to her. Try to listen to Feige, and
it.
then this lady's just like running the deal.
Publicist. It was a marketing or publicist person.
Oh, I didn't mean to. That's fine.
Okay, my final question for you. What's up with the Star Wars movie? Is it happening? I know that's like, is it happening?
Any Star Wars movie?
Yours.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
It must.
We got the spear. Don't block the logo.
It might. I don't know if she's talking to Ash or talking to like people in the background somewhere else.
Yeah,
it seems like she's talking to just other people,
like a cosplay person.
But it's good. She is. Ash is blocking the Marvel logo. Yeah. What are they gonna do?
I'm gonna poke a little fun right now because I believe it was last summer. We went on quite a State of Star Wars rant about Kevin Feige, and James was convinced that Kevin Feige was not doing anything Star Wars related.
No, I didn't. No, I was not. Nope. Incorrect.
You said it was a rumor.
Nope.
John, correct me if I'm wrong. We had a 20-minute conversation.
All James said was, I don't think it was ever officially announced.
Boom.
Which is fair. Which is fair. Even though Kevin Feige and Michael Waldron both said they were working on a Star Wars movie.
Correct.
He gave an
they
interview
did both
to
say
the Star
that.
Wars show
but also, it can live with was never officially announced as well.
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
It's the technicality that
I'm poking a little fun here, but
the president will hang her hat on.
now it's not happening, so it doesn't matter. That's the joke I'm making, so none of it matters. So the
Well, the
conversation
funny-
we have is null and void because it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, the funniest thing about it is it reminds me of that interview where Kathleen Kennedy's like, that was just a rumor made up by fans. And like everybody was like, bull crap. Like Kevin Feige himself said he was working on a Star Wars movie and his writer said he was literally writing it. So it wasn't just a thing made up by fans. So that I don't know
Or
what
Michael Waldron too. He probably wrote the whole thing.
Mhm.
or poor Kathleen Kennedy for whoever gave her notes for that interview to like not let her know that Kevin Feige on multiple occasions, maybe even on the Star Wars show, said he was working on a Star Wars movie. But this is the first time he has said no, it's not
He
happening.
has never said he's working on a Star Wars movie.
He has talked about it. Yes,
He has talked about it.
yes, because it was they said you're working on a Star Wars movie, and they were asking about like what you're going to take over Lucasfilm, and he's like, no, he's like, I'm going to do this movie, but Kathleen Kennedy's in charge. He talked about it a couple times, and again, Michael Waldron on multiple occasions said he had been actively working on the script. So it's nice to just see Feige come out there begrudgingly. He didn't look very comfortable answering that, or he looked almost like a little annoyed or bitter, not necessarily at Ash, but just at maybe the situation that he now
so
has
awkward.
to address it. Yeah. But the first time of him saying no, and that's pretty much all he said is no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, James?
This stuff is a whole mess, and even like kind of what you were saying, Lacey, like it's hard to even get across what I'm trying to say.
I was just poking fun.
I know, but it's like I didn't know. I don't remember. I'm positive you guys are right, but part of what I was going to say, assuming that he hadn't talked about it, was that I fully believe that this is not happening. It's been canon. He's answered the question, but even if like there's all these NDAs and other things and how they want to roll things out, that if somebody comes up to him and he's never talked about it publicly, but it's happening behind the scenes, it's never been officially announced, and say, are you doing a Star Wars movie? It doesn't matter who else has said, even if Michael Waldron said he's working on it, his answer probably would still be no. Like, what are you talking about? Even if everybody else has talked about it and he knows he's working on it, the answer could still be no. Like, that's not announced. We've never done anything to actively say that that's happening publicly, really, or officially in any official capacity. But I do think that this is him saying that it is done, and there's more to talk about. Like, again, another thing that didn't happen. Like, how is Kevin Feige able to produce so much stuff with Marvel, thing after thing after thing, and adapt to real life actors dying, and like, how are we going to adapt that into something that needs to happen and still work within our world and everything? But yet some hang up at Lucasfilm that is causing him to be like, well, this project is not going to go through. We can't manage whatever this hang up is. It's quite unbelievable. That this is another huge loss that we're thinking like, well, we know that's happening because it, man, I wish I could rant about this forever because it bothers me, but it's like, it's one of these things where like, I know, like Apple, for instance, I know Apple is working on things. We see the blueprints, we see the, all this stuff that gets official, and they have to document this and that. We know all that stuff is in, but until like Tim Cook gets up there and says, we'd like to introduce you to our next big product, and they show it to you and tell you when it's coming out, it could be something that the company just decides to not move forward with. They were working on it, but it was never officially announced. So it's not really like, something else. This still goes back to that same thing, but I know they were working on this, and it bums me out that there again is another one of these things where like you have top talent in Hollywood who wants to help and they want to participate, and something is making it impossible for it to work out. Writers, directors, and now producers as well. what's going on? What is going on? What is the big plan that nobody else can stick to? They can't work it in. Somebody's being so stubborn that they're like, we're absolutely not going to bend to do your thing at all.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's definitely tricky, especially because Kevin Feige did that whole interview with Andy on the Star Wars show where he talked about how important Star Wars is to him and like how he is so excited at the option to just like somehow be a part of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like he was just all about it. So I have to applaud Ash because per usual, she's a professional. She gauged immediately. She was like, this is all he's going to give me. He's giving me this smile, which everyone.
That's probably why she put it last as the
Yeah.
final little quick.
Yeah,
But I
and he
think
gave
she
her an
was even
answer.
stunned by how quickly his answer
He was like,
just
no.
no.
Yeah.
And she's
And that,
like,
but the look he's
okay,
giving her
great
is
to
that's
see
it.
you."
That's all you're getting is a no. You know, no. So I have to applaud her because she didn't like, prod or anything. She read the room very well. It's weird, man. Especially because the whole Michael Waldron thing. Like he had a really successful first season of Loki. I'm sorry, I don't know if he wrote season 2. But like he was so excited about how he's writing Star Wars. And I feel like every time we hear about a producer or director or writer, someone working on a Star Wars film, TV show, whatever, they're always like, this is my dream. I dream to be a part of Star Wars. And then you find out a year or two later that it's not happening. Like, oof. Like it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And for me, it's not just like, well, it's either they officially announced it or it doesn't count or,
Right.
I think there's layers to it in the sense where like, if it's the boss of Marvel who is going to make a Star Wars movie, like, and we know about it because his writer talked about it multiple times and he acknowledged it. I don't care if it's not on StarWars.com. It was being made and now it's not. That's just a fact.
And
So
I
we
wonder, yeah, I wonder if it had to do with, we were just kind of talking about it, like the strikes and stuff like that, or delays or money, or was it has to do with the rumors that are going around that like Marvel and Lucasfilm felt pressured to announce all these things in 2020 and now they're reconfiguring things and we're hearing rumors, which Ash did talk to him about like Robert Downey Jr. coming back and Scarlett Johansson coming back, and what does that look like? I wonder if this
Which
is
she said they're doing a project on Scarlett just by
they did.
I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Was honest about that.
Yeah.
But like now Blade might not be happening, which was announced at Comic-Con a couple years ago. There's just a lot in flux. And so I wonder if this project was kind of like, hey, you need to rethink your priorities on Marvel first before you keep doing Lucasfilm stuff or you move into Star Wars, or if it was literally like, hey, this just isn't working out. But again, we'll never know.
Yeah, that's true. That's tough to swallow that somebody would be like, "Hey, Kevin, you need to get your Marvel priorities right." And it's like, I'm spinning 8 Marvel movies. I think I can spin 8 movies in one Star Wars movie.
Right.
Like, and to tell him that he can't do that, get out of let Kathleen handle Star Wars. It's like, I'm sure the tops were like, Kevin, get over there and fix that. They probably trust it more to him, even if Marvel is sort of slipping or losing money.
Marvel now is going through what Star Wars went through after 2017. So, like, if you think about The Force Awakens, Rogue One, like, I think Star Wars was like, we can make a movie about anything, and it's going to make $1 billion. We are on fire right now. 100%. And then TLJ happens, makes $1 billion, splits fandom, Solo gets hit, and then all of a sudden it's like the Russians cut, we're wounded, like now we have to second guess ourselves, and now Marvel's feeling that too. It doesn't look like the Marvels is going to do well. I can't think of the last Marvel movie I saw in theaters. Now I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, so don't go to me for that, but just reading the tea leaves online from fans and how they're feeling about the franchise, it feels like post Endgame there's either a fatigue or a feeling of stagnation, not sure what they're doing. tying up loose ends for characters who already had their arcs, like the Black Widow movie coming out. The timing of that post Endgame is very odd. Just there's a lot of weirdness. Then that I think that could have something to do with it, because why have Kevin contribute to another IP when his own IP is maybe in a little bit of influx? So I get that. I buy a little bit of that being a potential part of this.
It's not part of the show notes, but there was like a rumor this week that was Kevin Feige would retire from Marvel to take over Star Wars. And I just thought, if anybody saw that and we wanted to address it, my initial thoughts on that is like, I just think that is not happening.
That was a rumor for years too. Like people always,
I mean, it
throw
has
that one
been,
out
but it's
there.
like,
Yeah.
it was really popping this week. I think someone with a lot of followers and some Hollywood insider clout posted that, and I saw it trending. And I mean, if that happened, I'd be like, I think I would be open to that idea. I'd be welcome. I'd be like, that's cool. I want him to do for Star Wars what he did for Marvel. I know he likes it just the same way as I want him as a producer in Star Wars. But realistically, I just don't know if that is happening.
I have no idea. My gut knee-jerk reaction is no, because he just seems like he's very much trying to figure out next steps for Marvel. They had a really hard year this year. Their movies aren't performing the way they want them to. I don't think audiences are connecting with the characters like they did with, the original Avengers, and that's why those discussions are happening. I'm one of those people that, when the Russos admitted that Jon Favreau called them and was like, please don't kill Tony Stark. You're going to have people walk out into traffic after this movie. Like, I was one of those people. Like, Tony Stark is like the heart of the MCU and like kicked it all off and everything. And look, I get the edgy choices that writers make when they're like, we're just going to end this character with a death. But I'm still strongly behind James Gunn, who said, look, just because a character story's ending doesn't mean they have to die. And I feel like for it felt long, several years. It was like every character we grew up with died. Luke Skywalker, dead. Wolverine, dead. Tony Stark, dead. Like, all these people were dying. So people just kind of disconnect a little bit, I think, to deal with that. But
Batman dead.
Batman dead. Yeah. I think
that's
Marvel's
weird. I
trying
like
to
the dead stories.
And that's fair, James. That's totally fair. Some people do.
I think they make them better.
And that's totally fine. I'm on the side that, like, I would like to have some characters survive. Maybe some of them die, but not all of them. And it felt like every single one was dying. But that being said, I just think Marvel's in a weird place right now where they're trying to figure out what their next villain is, what's their next move. And I don't see Feige making that transition to Star Wars when his whole legacy currently is Marvel, right? It is an interesting rumor. I do think we talked about it last week. Yes. About Kathleen Kennedy stepping down, of like when she's going to step down in our state of Star Wars.
This Kevin thing.
Yeah. So I don't think he's going to be the person to follow Kathleen Kennedy at all. I think he's got to figure out what he's doing.
I would be upset if he was, because to me, it feels like a New York Giants football fan. If Bill Belichick came back to the Giants as head coach, I'd be like, I don't want he's the Patriots guy. Like, I don't want
you get your sweatshirt t-shirts out of here.
I don't want to win with someone else's shadow from their past. Like, so if Feige comes over, that to me, I want Star Wars to be the one people want to borrow from. I don't want us to borrow. Like, I don't think I say us, that's a community, but I don't want Star Wars to be borrowing from other things that do it better than them. I never saw Star Wars that way. I always saw Star Wars as George Lucas, ILM, the trendsetters. Everyone's like, what's Star Wars doing? How did they do that? Let's do that. If I keep saying that, but if Star Wars brings in Kevin Feige, then I feel like they're like, we need that guy because he did so good over there. Like, and it would be Disney making that call. It would deflate me quite a bit. It would feel like we, as fans, are being succumbed to something that, like Disney saying, we don't know what to do with Star Wars now, so we're going to bring in the guy who did good with Marvel. And that to me is just sucks the whole soul out of what Star Wars is, which is the trendsetter, the one that people should be looking to for how to do things the right way and do it well and stuff like that. So I would actually be really upset. But having said that, I think this rumor is total crap. I don't think that we've heard this for years. It's the low hanging fruit for YouTube or bloggers to say like, oh, I heard my friend works at Disney and he said that Kevin Feige's coming in.
What's
it's
with
like,
the voice?
You know, so
I'd really like
He's
to.
coming. My friend works there. He works at the Starbucks on Main Street. Disney World.
Oh my god.
I'd love to have a conversation or watch a video of someone who's like, who really is in the know in this type of stuff, and they're like, honestly, the top 5 that are the highest contenders are this up and coming person who's president of this other film studio. You know what I mean? Like real legitimate answers. Or like this person who's been a protege of Kathleen Kennedy for years, but she's in the shadows. You know what I mean? She's being set up, and it's obvious, but only if you're looking for it. You know, I don't know. Like I would like to know, other than the day that she just steps down and announces the successor, and we're all looking like it's Bob Chapek, and we're like, who? You know, it's like then you have to do all your research to figure out even who the person even is. But I personally, although it's not always necessarily the best bet, I would personally like to know who the person is. You know, that would be cool to be like, oh, it's this person who, you know, you've heard their name because they run this other studio or something like that. Like bad example, but like Jason Blum or something. Like he has Blumhouse and like he's made tons of money on these independent films. I know that person. So if he came over, I'd be like, oh, I you know, there's just a connection there, but that's very like personal to me. I'd put the right person in the job for sure.
I need reaction videos live when they announce that J.J. Abrams is the president of Lucasfilm.
I'd love that.
I would lose my mind. I would do 8 episodes of TRB a week.
I'd love it. I love JJ. It would be incredible.
Hey, Bob, I'm in.
Maybe we can do like an episode where we just do like our picks. You know, like if I was the person, I would put this person in charge. But we
do a draft for all of Lucasfilm staff. We just
yeah, you gotta look it over.
Group is
yeah. All right, next story.
Yes, I know we had Michelle's super chat.
We have a couple super chats coming.
And I think we have more. Yeah.
So first of all, Michelle, thank you so much for the super chat. It was her first one ever. Congratulations. That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Michelle.
She said, just hit the super chat for support. Missed a couple weeks, but back and love you guys. We love you too,
thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
love
you
the dog.
So yes. And then we have Andrew Staley, our boy Andrew. Andrew,
man,
how are you?
What's up, Andrew?
Thanks for the super chat. He said, it's a question. He said, do you think there will be less secrecy, greater transparency when leadership changes at Lucasfilm? So we're going to save that first part of this for Ask the Resistance.
Ooh, nice.
But I will say, you said, thanks. Wish all the best to Lacey and her family with new little Luke or Mark. I am wearing a Mark Luke shirt tonight. You can't really see it, but thank you, Andrew. That's very sweet of you. We're going to hold on to your question and we'll do it first for Ask the Resistance.
Thanks, Andrew.
Very
Miss
cool,
you, buddy. All right. Yeah, James, what do we got, buddy?
Let's move on to this next story. So this one's kind of an interesting one. Adam Horowitz, always doing good over there at Happy Sad Confused podcast. He was doing a watch along with Josh Horowitz. What did I say?
You said Adam. That's his brother.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Yeah, I was one of the Beastie Boys. Adam Horowitz.
Maybe.
Did I tell you guys the Josh Horowitz story that I have?
You have.
Oh my god, with Adam Horowitz, where they're like, "Oh, his little brother Josh is in the lobby. Can you go get him so he can sit with his parents?" And I'm thinking this kid's like 8. No, it was Josh Horowitz, like the Josh Horowitz. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, he was doing this watch along. Yeah, sorry, I've misplaced his name.
It's okay.
But it's with the Fast X and Incredible Hulk director, Louis Leterrier. And they were sitting down and they were breaking down the whole movie, and Star Wars sort of got brought up. We actually have this clip as well, so I will pull that in so we can watch it.
Any, person, man, woman, whatever, American, French, Asian person who says they're in their 40s, 50s, saying they're making movies for a different reason than trying to do a Star Wars movie are lying. we all are trying in a way to make a Star Wars movie. Like even like
True.
in my last movie in Fast X, I put TIE fighter sounds in it. You know, just cannot help myself.
So do you have your dream Star Wars idea? Do you have your
Yeah,
concept?
I had it a
This
long
is
time ago
interesting.
when I came to them and pitched Lone Wolf. We should do a Star Wars TV show with conceived as a lone wolf and cub. And they said, nah, we don't know if it's a great idea.
We'll come back to you.
We'll come back to you with this idea.
Did you really? What?
Yeah.
And what kind of characters were it? Was it a Mandalorian? Was it like a?
It was not one. It was two things. It was a. I wanted to do the missing part between. Basically, you know, before New Hope, where Obi-Wan takes Luke, and then, you know, I wanted to do that, but also was very interested in the Boba Fett movie. Or TV show.
Boba Fett.
Then that's okay. I did.
That's
Also.
okay.
I did other things.
But that must have been a
Wow.
moment when you saw the announcement. Like, wait,
But when it's all
good.
It's all good. Yeah. It's all part of the thing. And frankly, I had this idea because it was like a low hanging fruit. I think it was like so obvious and so the characters are so iconic, and you know, so yeah, didn't go the way I wanted.
Very
That's
interesting.
interesting. I wonder, my thoughts just right off the top with that is I wonder at what point he did pitch these things, because it may have already been at that point that we're like, well, that's a great idea, but we're already working with Jon Favreau on the Cub, you know, the Wolf and Cub. Or also like he talks about Boba Fett, and it's like, at one point we had talked about how James Mangold was working on the Boba Fett movie, and they're like, well, we're also kind of working on that with James Mangold. It's like, so it's tough if his pitches just came in too late. But it is funny that he's talking about an idea that they ended up passing on, but ultimately made. So it's kind of a darn. What were your thoughts, John?
Well, it sounded like his lone wolf and cub thing was going to be like Obi-Wan and Luke,
Yeah.
which they sort of made, but they did it with Obi-Wan and Leia. So everything he said, they made, just not with him. So, and say what you want. Like, I'm not a fan of the Fast and the Furious. That's in no way a commentary to.
I think they're so great.
To his like talent or anything like that. But it is interesting to hear this stuff, and I just like when filmmakers are very candid with things that they were trying to work on and that sort of thing, because it's just interesting to hear how these processes go and these pitches go, and how gracious and classy he is to say, like, because it's got to be tough, based on what he said. He's like, they said we'll get back to you on that or something like that. I have to imagine this was years and years ago. Maybe the timing wasn't right or whatever, but it has to be a little frustrating to be like, oh man, that was sort of what I was thinking, and they made it with this guy. All right, well, that's fine. It's got to be a tough pill to swallow. So I give him a lot of credit for being very classy and humble about all this for someone who makes such big movies. So it's very inspiring to see that level of humbleness and grace. So hats off to him for that. But beyond that, it's just, again, one of those interesting things, like, what if, and did certain things change because of the Solo box office, and who knows what else would have been going on, because the Obi-Wan, obviously, as we know, was going to be a movie. So did he pitch this after that, when the Obi-Wan thing was sort of shelved before they decided they were going to make it a series? So I would love to know. If I had one question, I would say, Louis, what year, when did this happen? What is it? We're looking at 2016, 2017, and he'll probably be like, I can't say that, because that then tells you, like, Favreau took my idea, or so but I just liked how he addressed this, and not to say I love all of his work, but I think it'd be cool to see him get an opportunity.
Lacey, what do you think?
I think that this is an interesting conversation. I appreciate his honesty, and just like, he has nothing to hide. I do like Fast and the Furious. Tokyo Drift is my favorite one, to be honest. Which he did not do, but that's fine.
6 is the best in my opinion.
Oh, that's fine. I have to rewatch them all, actually. I'm gonna be honest. But to me, it is interesting. Like, obviously, we know Jon Favreau pitched Mandalorian as Lone Wolf on the Cub type thing, and there's clearly like a question mark moment when you're hearing it. But to me, that movie is such an inspiration to so many filmmakers, just like Star Wars is, that it's really hard to hear anyone say, oh, you know, I pitched this as an idea and not think 3 other people also did. Like, it's like a Citizen Kane type thing, Casablanca, like people are inspired by the same movies, and a lot of movies are in the top 10 for filmmakers of like, this is a life-changing movie for me. And for a lot of action people, Lone Wolf and the Cub is one, a samurai movie. It came out in the 70s, like people were really inspired by it. They wanted to get into filmmaking. They see Star Wars and they want to do bigger things. You know, we were talking about James Cameron and how that inspired him to make movies. Star Wars did. So I took this more as like, hey, maybe multiple people pitched this idea and it just happened to be 2 people on the same wavelength, which is Jon Favreau and Louis here, where they're just like, hey, this is something that impacted me. I loved it. I would love to see it translate into Star Wars. John, I agree with you. I think you're right. He was pitching it. It's a little confusing, but I think he was pitching it as a Luke Obi-Wan type thing, like before A New Hope, which I honestly don't think is as good of a story as The Mandalorian, but in the sense of this kind of retelling.
Right.
But the Boba Fett thing is interesting. But again, that's such a character that so many people were inspired by when they were younger, especially people that grew up with the original trilogy in the 70s and the 80s, where Boba Fett had like no lines, no parts. And so they were able to come up with this like whole character in their head of who it was. What was he like? He's so cool. I mean, go back and watch the documentary about Boba Fett and like the making of Boba Fett and how basically everybody that was ever involved in that was just like the secrecy / who is he is what made him so cool. So as a filmmaker who's trying to be creative, you find a character that you're like, I can really sink my teeth into this. It would be Boba Fett, because for a while we didn't really know anything about him. So that doesn't surprise me either. But I mean, every day it feels like we hear someone else who pitched something to Lucasfilm and they were like, nah. So I would love to be the person that goes through the trash that gets to see all the pitches that they heard that like didn't go anywhere. Like I always wonder what was pitched, and we're about to get basically what was pitched with Zack Snyder with Rebel Moon. It's coming out next month. So I mean, it's wild every time we hear something like this, but I really hope that him and other people like Damon Lindelof do ultimately get their chance to work on Star Wars, because it is a dream for a lot of people. So when you hear someone be like, yeah, I lost my shot. Oh, it is what it is. Like, he's being very nice and kind, but like, I'm sure it wasn't an easy rejection.
We get Taika Waititi, or sorry, we get Kevin Feige as the person, and he brings back like everybody we didn't get. You know what I mean? Like every director, every writer, every actor who, you know, like, it's so funny. That would be great. Yeah, I was thinking when you were pitching that, Lacey, that it almost kind of sounded like the way he was talking about it was like one experience he had where he had the opportunity to go in and pitch a show. And so he goes in, he pitches the Lone Wolf Cub thing with Obi-Wan and Luke, and they go, that sounds very interesting. If we weren't to do that, what would be like, this is the interviewer question. They go, what's another character that you would like to, if you could do like a solo movie for a character? And he was just like, oh, Boba Fett, you know, like that would be great. It was almost like, it felt a little bit more like it was an on the spot pitch, whereas the other one was like something he'd really thought the story out and was like, that's the one I want to do. But if I had to do one other one off the top of my head, Boba Fett. But again, I don't know how in depth his pitches were. And when I hear Boba Fett too, I also go back way back when John Schnepp said the thing about the like they were going to do Solo and they were going to do a Boba Fett movie and they were going to be like tied together. It was going to be like a little pocket universe. I was like, that feels A, very Marvel, but B, also very Star Wars, that would play like they're doing right now with Mandalorian and Skeleton Crew and Ahsoka, and like it's all, and Rangers of the New Republic. It was all going to be tied in because you build your pocket, or High Republic, another example, build your pocket and then just build out that world. So, and again, at that time, I think there was talk of doing Boba Fett for a little while in that era. So I don't know if he was the one that maybe was pitching that as well, but alas, it didn't happen. So hopefully this guy
can't help but like as a fan just wonder what has been discussed and what has been denied and what could have been.
Well, it's also cool with the optics of what it looks like being a director trying to work in Star Wars. Feels a little risky and a little uneasy and vitriol from whatever. But he's sitting there saying like, if you're in your 40s and 50s and you're a filmmaker and you're not trying to make a Star Wars movie with your other movies, you're lying. And I love that he said that. He's like, yeah, I'll bring me in. I'll do it. I'm not worried about the flack. I'm not worried about the drama, the danger. Let's make a Star Wars movie. So I like his energy, a lot.
Well, John, we have another story this week, and I'm kind of not very privy when it comes down to these numbers and stuff. But one of the things you wanted to discuss is the Nielsen releases. That Nielsen, who's in charge of ratings for streaming television. I think they probably do other stuff, but they're the go-to for sure when it comes to like your Netflix and your Peacock and your other stuff. So Nielsen they do these streaming numbers too. And they release all the viewership numbers for every one of the Star Wars Disney Plus shows, which is pretty interesting. And I didn't really get together something to like bring up the graph for the video, but we're, mostly an audio podcast anyway. So let's talk about these numbers. But what really stood out when you look at this chart that is literally broken down by like Mandalorian, can't get it out. Mandalorian season 2. And it's like, this is how many episode 1, this is how many episode 2, this is how many episode 3. I mean, it's broken down.
So I guess, Nielsen does it by millions of minutes watched. And so they didn't have the data this was posted to the like Star Wars Reddit thread, but this data came from Nielsen. So these charts and what have you. So Mando season 2, the highest watched, we don't have the season 1 data, but from this data, the highest watched Star Wars Disney Plus episode ever was Chapter 16 of The Mandalorian Season 2, The Rescue, with the return of Luke Skywalker. So keep that in mind, because that's not just when it first came out. That's everyone heard about it. It was like, oh, I'm going to go watch that one. They go watch it. That's the highest one so far. It says 136 million minutes. So however you want to rate that, 1336 being the number.
I thought that was 1,336,000,000. Am I wrong?
I don't know.
It's 1336 M. So it would be 336 million, but then there's a 1 in front of it.
So the way I take
hate math.
That makes sense to me. 1,336,000,000.
It's all relative. So just take the number 1336.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the highest watched out of any Star Wars Disney Plus show, according to Nielsen. The lowest ones are Andor and Ahsoka, with Andor's episode 4 at 4 or episode 10 at 420, and Ahsoka at 487 for episode 3. Even the return of Hayden Christensen only at 577, so almost a third of the viewership of the return of Luke Skywalker for the return of Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker.
And that's with no press.
Now, granted, Mando season 2 has been out longer. Maybe people revisited it. Ahsoka just came out. We'll see how that, how the lifespan is for that.
Right.
But if you look at the bar
it's like
chart,
a YouTube video that's had the longevity of, it's been out twice as long, too.
Right. Yeah, monkeys falls off the tree because he smells his own fart or whatever, and it's 5 billion views. But this chart here shows
Yeah.
Well, I'm
What
saying
are
like a
you talking
YouTube video. So if a YouTube video has been out for a long time and it's like it's been viewed a lot, it's going to have more views, of course. So what I'm
You're
saying is that
you're using that example as like one of the early videos of YouTube that
yeah,
everybody
from
went
like
and saw.
yeah, it's from Bob Saget's America's Funniest Home Videos. The monkey falls off the tree because he smells himself. It's amazing. Go watch it. Stop watching this and go watch that. But
Please don't.
the bar chart shows that the two highest watched seasons of Star Wars TV are Mando Season 2 and Mando Season 3. The least watched is Andor, and second least watched is Ahsoka. Now, I think the strike maybe plays a part, but I think a very small part. I think a lot of this has to do with maybe some familiarity. I think Mando transcended the franchise because of Grogu. So people who aren't big Star Wars fans, even people I know, I would see casually, they'd be like, I wasn't really a big Star Wars fan, but I really got into that Mandalorian show because of the Baby Yoda. I'm like, that's awesome. So that has that going for it. Ahsoka, I think it's one of those things where as Star Wars fans, when we're in the bubble, we think it's like, oh my God, Hayden's back and this is the biggest thing ever. But it's very niche. Like, I don't know if my brother watched Ahsoka. Ahsoka is a very popular character with diehard Star Wars fans, but she's not a popular character with general audiences. So it doesn't surprise me that it's the second highest watched show. Third highest is Book of Boba Fett. No, I'm sorry. Third highest is Kenobi, which actually did pretty well because it's Ewan McGregor. And then just behind that was Book of Boba Fett. But Andor's way down there. And I think that might have been just too off the beaten path for casual fans. And again, this is not commentary on how you feel about the show if you're listening to this, how I feel about the show, the quality of these shows. I think we all said Andor from a production standpoint is the best. It comes down to all Star Wars fans, your uncle, your friend, your coworker, who may not be people who listen to Star Wars podcasts, but like Star Wars, they're going to go see a Star Wars movie when it comes out. They'll check in, they hop out. Are they going to watch these shows? Which ones are they going to watch? And right now, it looks like really it's The Mandalorian, which leads me to my bigger point, and that's the Dave Filoni movie. Disney's looking at this data. They're looking at what people are liking and watching, and we know all of these characters minus Obi-Wan and Andor. So you got Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Mando, all that stuff is in this Mandoverse that's going to build up to that Filoni movie. They're looking at this stuff. And they're probably talking to Dave Filoni about it. It leads me to think that no matter who's in this movie from this Mandoverse, Mandalorian and Grogu are going to be the biggest part of marketing and biggest part of that movie for this reason specifically, because the proof is in the pudding. If are people going to watch it? If those two are in it, they will. So I think that is telling us something about where they're going with that movie. Unless they give Filoni full reins and he makes it an Ahsoka fest, then we see how the box office does. But Star Wars needs a big win from the box office. How do you do that with that movie, with these characters? You got to be pointing at The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
I'm going to push back on something that you said, John. And I'm so sorry. So one, I do think that the strikes have impacted Ahsoka greatly. I think without them having to do any promotion, it only hurt them. Like they didn't get to do, the BuzzFeed puppy interviews. They didn't get to do all that press stuff. They didn't get to have a big event about it where they talk with all the celebrities of what it's like to be in Star Wars. All like that stuff is impacted. And that goes into the toys, that goes into merchandise, everything. The other reason I'm going to push back on that is because you said that you didn't think that people really knew Ahsoka, and yet the number 2 episode by views, minutes watched in season 2 is Ahsoka's episode for Mando season 2. So you have episode 8, which is Luke Skywalker with the 1336M, and the Ahsoka episode, which is episode 5, the Jedi, is 1210. So that is the number 2 episode that everybody watched, which would be the only reason you watch it is because Ahsoka's in it.
That's
and
fair.
It's Dave Filoni's episode. So that's the one thing I'm going to be like, That being said.
And, here's another fun thing too. The last episode of Boba Fett was the most watched. Now, granted, Mandalorian was in it, but Mando's episode, which people said they really tuned in for, didn't get as high as views. So even in the book of Boba Fett, it wasn't the Mandalorian that necessarily was selling it.
But there's a spike, a clear spike when that episode hits.
Right, which is what I was going to then agree with you, John, is that I do agree that Mando and Grogu, Baby Yoda, are the big pull here. Obviously, they're doing, they're getting more views than anybody else. I think you saw a huge spike in season 2, and then you saw it kind of come down in season 3 because not everybody loved season 3. I think it took a different turn that people didn't expect. I'm trying to remember what episode Ahmed Best was in. Wasn't it episode 3 of season 3, which would be the 11/11/15 M?
Oh no, I don't think that one was that.
I feel like it was, but anyway. That being said,
What was episode 3?
I do think that, you know, they are looking at these numbers and they're going, what are people watching? And I think that there's just so much coming out with Star Wars and like we were talking about earlier with Marvel that people are really trying to figure out what they like and what they don't like. And despite how awesome Andor was and how different it was compared to everything that's come before it, it didn't have the views that people thought that it did. Like, and it's not doing as well with general audiences, clearly, that Mando is. So I'm interested to see where they go from here because, I mean, Ahsoka, again, I think it really hurt because of the strikes because we didn't get to see any promo for it. And they were doing all those like previously recorded things. Like they weren't promoting it as much in general because they just didn't want, I think, negative press surrounding it. So it's definitely tricky, but I think, yeah, if you're totally right, John. If Filoni is going into this big crossover movie, Mando and Grogu are the main characters. Like they're on the poster. They're the ones that are leading the way. And that's why I was so surprised when they weren't in Ahsoka, to be honest.
Yeah. Pedro Pascal and Grogu will both be on the couch with Jimmy Fallon.
How did Pedro not win People's Sexiest Man of the Year? That's what I want to know. Like, how did Patrick Dempsey, what year is it?
How did I not win is what I would like to know.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh my God.
You don't need to tell me anything. I'm well aware. I have mirrors in my house.
Hey, let me look at this stat real quick. Okay, I looked that up, Lacey. His was the 4th episode. Ahmed Best was the 4th episode.
Oh, okay. 4th.
But I'm really astonished at the 3rd episode, which is, keep in mind, the 3rd highest of all episodes watched. It was of season 2. It was episode 8. Then 5 was the 2nd highest episode, the one with Ahsoka we were talking about. This Mando season 3, episode 3 was the 3rd highest of all shows watched. All
That's
episodes.
when they go to Mandalore?
No, it's the Dr. Pershing episode.
Oh.
That's weird, right?
That is weird.
Interesting. I wouldn't have pegged that one as the
it's
one
the
that...
convert.
Interesting. Yeah. Maybe it's because it goes to prequel stuff, so all the prequel fans jumped in to see what it was all about.
But over Anakin returning and Ahsoka and stuff, I don't know, man. That's an odd thing, but that was 1115. It's the 3rd highest.
Yeah, unless yeah, it's a good question. Like, I'm trying to think of how the 2nd episode ended. Was it a big cliffhanger where people were like, oh, I got to pop on that 3rd one?
Right. But even then, you'd think like episodes 1 and 2 would be higher because everybody tuned in to see them. And even if it was a cliffhanger, I don't know.
I thought Ahsoka did better than this. You know, it's disappointing to see these numbers because I thought overall it was like the most well-balanced besides the Mandalorian. But we'll see what comes of it, you know.
One other quick thing, John, like, okay, Mandalorian anomaly, we know that, right? Let's just take that out of here for a second. Which ones do you think did better numbers? Kenobi and Boba Fett, or Andor who and Ahsoka who? You know, it's like it is very clear that just on name recognition alone, hey, are you gonna watch? Well, did you hear they made a Boba Fett? You know, did you hear they made a Kenobi? Like those two doing better than Andor and Ahsoka. The only thing Andor has going for it is it was arguably the main character or the main supporting character of a $1 billion movie. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
again,
I mean, people didn't go to see Rogue One because of Diego Luna. Yeah,
I know exactly. I think like he was great in the movie and everybody loved it.
Yeah,
100% were there.
Yeah,
but I don't think people are like, even when it was announced, there was a whole like who's asking for this? And I was like, well, first off, me.
Yeah,
I freaking love
where are
the
you
idea
going? Where
of
are you
Andor.
going tonight? I'm going to see the new Diego Luna movie. Like that, that's
Right.
not, you know,
100%. But
It
yeah,
wasn't that.
you say, oh, and then they're doing Andor. I even remember everybody's like, who's that? What is that show? Andor Ahsoka is never going to compete against Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, those are
I
just going to
know.
do better on just sheer name.
And that's
So what
another
show do they need to do? You know,
That's another-
Skeleton Crew is going to suffer too, probably.
maybe, but that's another potential concern as to what Disney does with all of this. Do they end up making Star Wars smaller and say, like, maybe Star Wars for what we need it to be is this, and it's Skywalker related familiar stuff that made the franchise big in the first place? Maybe Star Wars doesn't have the reach that we thought it might. We're testing the waters here. Are they willing to? How much are they willing to spend on productions for things that aren't going to have the return? You know, Andor had a huge budget, lowest returns on viewership. Disney's gonna, you know, they have to answer to board members, shareholders. They're gonna keep this in mind. So this is all gonna play a part in the content we see in the future.
Wasn't Mando season 2, episode 7, the Bill Burr episode?
Mando season 2, episode 7.
I'll pull it up.
Because it's one of the top 5 episodes that's ever streamed. So I was just curious because, you know, Bill Burr is pretty mainstream. So if he has fans that are like, I'm not going to watch the show, but I'll watch the one episode Bill Burr's in.
Yes.
I'm just curious. It is?
Yeah, it's The Believer, and it's the one where they infiltrate the...
Well, that was a great episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so good in that episode.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I definitely wanted to talk about it. I'm glad we did, and I think it's going to lead to plenty of other discussions. But
maybe what would be good is to actually like write these down and be like, these are the like these are the top 10. You know, these episodes in particular, and kind of look at the graph like that, because that I'm still really thrown. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. I don't know if you guys can verify for me, but yeah, season 3 of Mandalorian, episode 3. Is the 3rd highest. That's crazy to me. But but that really breaks it down for Resistance Report this week. And we got our last section, Ask the Resistance. Hopefully everybody's sending questions. If you haven't, take the opportunity now to throw in a question. I know we also have Andrews and some other ones, but let's get to Ask the Resistance.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
all right, it is time for Ask the Resistance. We are going to start with Andrew's question. He submitted a super chat earlier in the show. Thank you so much, Andrew. And Andrew, where was my text? Where was my DM about Ryan Blaney being the NASCAR champion? I didn't see it. Where is it, pal?
But man, did they make that commercial for Andrew that I saw, the NASCAR one?
Oh, yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, it's like they took this out of Andrew's brain.
So good. Yeah. All right. So Andrew asked, do you think there will be less secrecy / greater transparency when leadership changes at Lucasfilm? James, what do you think, buddy? Do you think if there's a change in the executive order of Lucasfilm, will they change how the public receives information?
I think it depends on who it is. If it's someone, I don't want to say lateral move, but like let's say for instance it's Kevin Feige, then yes, I think it would change because of the way that we've already seen that he performs his business. But I think if somebody is stepping into the position, like moving up, like they're like, oh, big shoes to fill, Kathleen Kennedy, she's one of the best. And if I'm going to do it, I'm probably being appointed by her because she thinks that, you know, I'm going to run it the same way she ran it. Then I think the secrecy thing carries over. And I really hope that it doesn't. I think we've uncovered over the years that it has not benefited them greatly. Maybe we'll find out if they're super open, or at least more open, that is a worse strategy. I don't think it would be, but we'll look back on the days of like, oh man, I just wish they kept everything secret. I just don't see that being the case. But I think it depends on who it comes in, and if they are somebody who is a known name, I guess, I don't know how to phrase that, but if they're like a strong public figure already, then I think they'll
For the
do
reputation, you're saying.
yeah,
Someone with, like,
exactly.
a
They'll
reputation.
do the thing that they have always done. And but I think if it's someone who's stepping up into that position, who's moving up to CEO or president from like a financial situation at Lucasfilm or something along those lines, then I feel like the company runs like sort of status quo as how she found it, not founded it, but like ran it since the Disney thing. This is the way Lucasfilm runs, and it will continue to run until that person is eventually able to find their own voice.
Oh, right on. Lacey,
Great
what do you
answer. Great answer. Great answer. That's me on my feed.
think? Survey.
Yeah.
I think they're still going to be just as secretive as they are now. I think even more so because they're trying to figure out what they're doing. I think at Celebration this past year, they tried to be really open and transparent with a bunch of stuff, and already their plan has gone out the window due to strikes and everything else, rightfully so. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think they're going to be more secretive, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's one of those things where until they show me, I don't imagine that changing. I think they've been more secretive since George Lucas sold the company, but I also think it's the world now with social media being what it is. There has to be a balance, though. They're way too secretive, more than any other studio, and I think it's a little too much to the point of where it's a bit absurd. But I understand it because they like the theatrics and they like the grand presentation. They like
Disney
the big
loves that.
Yeah.
As someone that's worked with Disney at their panels at Comic-Cons, they love the big moments.
Yeah, and so I think there has to be a good balance to it. I think what could be interesting, which you got to be careful with, just imagine this for a second. Imagine a new president of Lucasfilm being very active on social media, the way James Gunn is. And just being like there's an article out there like Kevin Feige taking over a new movie, whatever, and the new president just like quote tweets it and just like, nope, not true at all.
Again, that's sort of what I'm leaning on. Like if it's a James Gunn, obviously he's gonna do like the James Gunn thing.
But ultimately, I think, like I said, until I'm proven differently, this is the hardest nut to crack as far as like getting them to be more transparent from out of any of the studios. So I hope they do, but I also I'm with Lacey. I doubt it. But thank you, Andrew.
Ryan Johnson.
Next up, we're gonna go to Semper Fi Danny, and Danny asked, on a scale, because we did just talk about this, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being no chance, 5 being a book it, or a bang, if you will, how likely is Filoni's movie going to be made? If so, how likely will it be made for movie theater versus D+? Lacey, what do you think?
5. Book it. He's making this movie no matter what. He's not going anywhere from Lucasfilm, and it will be in a movie theater. It will not be on Disney+. Disney wants to put more movies out.
James?
Very simple. Sorry.
No, simple is good.
Round numbers. Can we do 4.5?
Oh,
either way,
you
stands.
No one hates putting themselves out there more than you, man. You feel so pressured in these situations.
It's because you can screen cap everything. You know what I mean? James Baney once said on an Ask the Resistance 1 to 5. He said 5. This will happen.
I
don't know. I'm with Lacey though. Like I think it's going to happen because I think we've discussed this. Like his is the only one where like Mangold, yeah, that's great. You got this awesome director, but obviously Lucasfilm has a problem keeping people around. They just lost Feige for some reason. So it's like, okay, Mangold's thing and his is so far away, you could probably push it aside. And then there's the Rey story. Yeah, I think the Rey thing has got to happen too. But Dave Filoni's is like, he just fires on all cylinders. And I think everybody really likes everything that he's doing. So I think he's like almost like earned it too. They give it to him to take it away. They're not NBC. He's not Conan. I think they're going to give him this thing. And then the other thing is is it going to a movie theater or Disney Plus? At this point, I'm certain it's going to a theater. But if you were to told me a while ago that Dave Filoni was going to be working on a Mandalorian feature, I don't know necessarily that I would have thought, because I said to Lacey, I thought that was, a bad idea, because all these people learn this character on a television show and then they have to pay to go to the theater. Or vice versa, like people who would go see it in the theater don't know this character because they don't have Disney Plus. Like it's just a weird combination, but it looks like it's going that direction. So I think 5 on both of them. I think that's just the way that it is.
That's right, James. That's the greatest thing I've ever said. I said that Mando was going to have a couple seasons on TV and then it was going to go to a movie.
Did you say that?
I did. I did say that.
I still don't know if the movie's
and
called
I said Fennec Shand wasn't dead, and I was the only one that said that.
I'm still not entirely positive that the movie is The Mandalorian. I think he's in it. I think John's got a good point that he may be even like the main character or something.
I think it's going to be called Grogu, a Grogu story.
Why is Jon
in
Favreau
theaters
not involved
this Christmas? $2 billion. Look out, James Cameron.
Just put him in little sweaters.
We're replacing blue with green this Christmas season. His name is Grogu.
If it's so Mandalorian heavy, why isn't Jon Favreau involved in doing it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
He'll probably maybe he'll do a little. I lost an AirPod. We're down an AirPod.
Lost. We're back to JJ again. Jeez.
Or maybe it's one of those things that they offered it to Favreau first, and he was like, "I don't want to do the movie," and then he's like, "But I trust Dave to do it."
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But I think it's a 5. I think it's a book it. They have to do it because look where Filoni is on the pecking order. He's a creative executive, one of the top creative people at Lucasfilm. If his movie doesn't happen, that is a horrible look for the studio. So it has to happen. They're going to put all the resources behind it to make sure it's good. Right now, they're aside from the past stuff, they're sure hit right now is Mando and Grogu. So they'll make sure that they're heavily involved, like I was saying earlier. And it will definitely be made in theaters because that's the only way that would make money. So 100% in theaters, 100% happening. And I think out of all the movies, I think that's probably the most likely to happen. And that includes this next one, which we're going to talk about.
Where did we land on that? Didn't we land on the Rey movie? Like we're like, it may not be with that director, but
well, let's get to this. We'll do one more question. We'll do one more question, and this is going to come from Palpa Memes. I like that. He's a Star Wars channel. He's got his photo is Sheevy Babes with a Santa hat. You don't want that coming down your chimney, especially Lacey. But the question is, y'all think Rey's film will start principal photography in spring of 2024? I do not. I do not think so. I think take whatever time was happening with the pandemic, 4 or 5 months, add it to that. So I think fall 2024 is when we'll see that thing perhaps start filming. I do still think the movie's going to happen. There may be some shakeups with personnel. It wouldn't shock me if there's a director change because of scheduling or whatever. Nothing against the current director, but look at the history of director changes. And if you shift the schedule, that could disrupt something for sure. But no, I don't think. I just think because of the strikes and stuff, everything's getting pushed. So I don't think that they're going to start rolling on spring 2024 the way they originally were rumored to be. James, what do you think on that one?
The month is December 2026. That's where it's pushed right now, or is it just
May
2026?
2026
May
after
2026.
Avengers.
It's May 2026. Well, either way, May is spring. So if they shot principal photography in May of 2024, then they wrap up that movie and they spend like almost 2 years in post-production. It's like, it doesn't make sense. They'll do longer lead up time, film it, and then post-production within that like year window, probably.
So
That's
more
2
like
years before
more
the
like
movie even comes out.
sequels, which people felt were rushed. Lacey, what do you think? Do you think we're getting Daisy Ridley on camera this coming spring?
I wish we were, but I don't think so. I think we're going to probably see it in the fall at the earliest or spring of the following year because it's not coming out until May 2026.
but we all
So-
think it's happening.
It's definitely happening. I don't think
Mhm.
they're canceling that movie. I think they're moving full steam ahead. I think.
For bringing the actor out on stage at your big event and then canceling that, another bad look.
Yeah,
yeah.
it would be pretty
That's
rough.
why,
I'd
yeah.
cry. I'm not gonna
Where
lie.
did we land on that? Because I remember, however it lined up, you guys had different orders, but where we cumulatively came up was the same as my order. I just can't remember where we put Ray movie and Filoni movie. They surely were at the top.
I put Ray first, then Filoni.
Think
Then
about when they come out or if they're going to be
Mangled.
made.
No, when they are, if they're going to be made, the likelihood of them. Do you remember we did that?
I said
Yeah.
Ray, Filoni, Mangled. That's what I said.
Okay,
I don't
so
know
then
what
I
I
think
put.
I think we probably did all agree that Ray was like the absolute top. They brought the actors on, and it's like the next movie that they're pushing. So that one's got to happen, whether it's
Yeah.
with that director or not. Then
Yeah.
after that, it's probably Filoni as far as likelihood. So I'm changing my
Um,
other answer to 4.5. I don't care about the 5. Full point.
All right. Well, that is all the time we have. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions. We'll bring them back if you have one you want us to talk about next week. And patrons, of course, we have Will of the Force you can submit to as well. But thank you to everybody who sent in questions. We really appreciate it. And thanks to the ones that we chose and talked about for helping to make the show better. So thank you very much. Thanks for everybody for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. A big thank you to our supporters over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/resistance broadcast. If you're listening to this and you like what we do here at TRB, head over to that on your favorite browser and check out our tiers. They start at just $5, and we have bonus episodes exclusive just to Patreon. We have polls. We discuss polls in a chat form. We also have bonus questions that we do. We have commentaries. We have a Discord server, a lot of cool stuff, and exclusive merch for certain tiers as well. So go check it out. Tiers start at $5, and you're helping out the three of us keeping the machine rolling here at TRB. So patreon.com/resistance broadcast. If you can, thank you. A big shout out to the Generals and Spice Runners over on Patreon. Carmelo, John RISI, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny, Mike Rumore, Matt Heath, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Colin Cormier, Jolt and Jedi DiMaggio, Diana and Dave Hornack, and the Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, KENDALL GELNER, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Michael Fry, and the Fort Worthian, and all of our patrons. Thank you all so much for all of your support. And you know where to find us. All the audio podcast apps, youtube.com/@theresistance broadcast. And for me, at Johnny Hoey on social media, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. I can find that anywhere. James, we'll go to you next.
You can find me on all social media platforms at Myra Trunks.
All right,
Easy
Lacey,
peasy.
it's been an honor podcasting with you all these years, and I wish you all the best in your month hiatus.
We'll see. We don't know what the time frame is, but
She'll be back one day.
If you are a patron, you get one more poll chat too.
You get a poll chat. And also, Lacey's still going to be doing work behind the scenes on Patreon. too,
yeah, but thank you to everybody in the chat that's saying good luck. I really appreciate it. Oh, Semperfi Danny says it's going to be Benjamin Luke Gilleran.
Oh,
Double it down.
BLG.
Interesting. It's not, but I do like the
Remember
name
that time in A and B where Ray
A new beginning. Yeah.
yeah.
But people can find me on social
yeah.
media at Lacey Gilleran. And as these guys were just joking about, I am taking a little bit of a break. I'm having a baby next week. Surprise. I know you can only see me from like chest up on video.
Yeah, some people right now are like, what?
I am very, very much pregnant. So I'm
mhm.
having my baby next week. So these guys are going to hold down the fort. I appreciate all your well wishes and support. It means a lot to me. And I can't wait to be back to talk about Star Wars after I get some sleep and recover.
Yeah. Yeah, Lacey, I mean, we'll obviously be talking regularly, but for the sake of the show and our audience, we'll miss you. We'll see you soon, and good luck with everything. And we can't wait to see pictures of little Ignatius Shea when he arrives.
Enrique? Enrique Ignatius?
Yes, Charlie Sheen Shea. All right. Thank you all very much, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend. And James and I will be back with you on Monday with another episode right here on the Resistance broadcast. So until then, we'll see you around, kids.